OPEB trust. At that meeting, we met with our chief OPEB actuary, and she presented the OPEB valuation review, which included the healthcare assumption updates, along with economic and demographic assumptions. The accrued liability for the town, the breakdown of that liability was showed previously, and in the staff report, page 2, our accrued liability is 7.7 million. Active is 940,000, retiree 6.7 million. So our total 7.7 million is our OPEB liability. Our PARS trust currently had 7.8 million as of June 30th, 2022, and it produced a net OPEB liability income of 93,000. So we continued to review the valuation, and it included the discussions of our historical unfunded liability and the funded ratio of the town liabilities and our PARS trust growth over the years. So it's a valid time to review the funding status and set a funding target for the OPEB benefits to the town's PARS trust. Attached is a memo for your review and consideration and for further discussion on our OPEB liabilities. We can make a formal recommendation through this discussion. And once the committee reviews and discusses, we can make a recommendation to use a portion of the PARS trust to pay the OPEB liabilities. Once we make that discussion and recommendation, staff will formulate and present a formal recommendation to the council. We want to turn it over to Mr. Polito on discussion of that memo. Yeah, if you want, if not, I can, if you want to summarize, I mean, but you have the memo, the committee has the memo before them. A recommendation is to come up with a percentage target of using the retiree trust. There's about 7.8 million in the trust to pay a portion of our health retiree benefits. That equates to about 450 to 500,000 a year. In retiree health benefits, the committee can formulate whether it's a portion of that, a percentage, or the total amount that we pay yearly in retiree health expense out of the trust. And so in that memo, it was illustrating that our OPEB liability has decreased over the years, and at the same time, our PARS trust has also increased. And so we have pretty much a net positive of 93,000 currently right now in the trust. And we think it's a prudent time to review and make a recommendation to the council if we should start drawing down on that PARS trust. The memo illustrates that and has a recommendation for presenting that to the council.
When I read your memo, I had a whole series of questions about how we got to where we got, that we ended up with a net OPEB liability where we were actually in the positive rather than in the negative. And when I read Bob's memo, it explained all my questions to me. And I think the other point, in addition to what you said, that's really relevant is if you look forward, because of the change that we've made in terms of the retiree medical their medical obligations are going down over time because of the change that we've made, that it makes sense to me that we fully pay this out of the general fund. And if at some point it looks like that's a problem, we can.
You mean out of the forest trust?
Yeah, out of the forest trust rather than out of the general fund. I think that makes all the sense in the world.
So I do have a question, Robert. What is the retiree only annual cost? Active employees, their PEMCA and all that.
$29, isn't it?
Retiree.
Oh, the minimum or just
No,
the total?
The total allocation every year that comes out of our general fund that's focused purely on retiree healthcare that would be coming out of the trust each year.
The number like.
It's about 460,000 and 500. Yeah,
Right.
$1,000.
So, and then we have in the trust $7.8 million.
Correct. We have 7.8 million in the trust. It's about 460,000 of operation expense for retiree health. looking at that, I mean, we could take that, divide it and see how many years out that would equate to. And see where that would take us.
Right. Our consultant can model this
Right.
if you really want to do it. Personally, I think it's a waste of time, but if you've got the time, go ahead and model it. But we can always adjust. In other words, if our investments go south, if things happen when suddenly we are no longer fully funded for the explicit benefit, we can always start paying part of it out of the general fund again. But I don't see a reason why not to start to pay 100% of it.
Well, 100%, assuming all the current retirees last at least 10 years, that's $4.5 million, right? So, and
And we got 8.
we got 8.
And the 8 is, they've calculated the liability on an actuarial basis. To try to say, well, how many years is that, et cetera, just second guessing that number.
Right. I agree.
I think you've made a compelling case. I did have one question. Is the PARS trust an irrevocable trust?
Correct.
Yes.
Well,
Only
then,
used
that's
for-
even another reason, because if in the end, there's no OPEB liability and there's money in the trust, it doesn't automatically come back to the town.
I don't know, it might have to sit there to pay these $29 a month bills for the next decade.
Yeah. Well, the PEMCA's,
Yeah.
And if it's about 460,000 a year, so in what's currently in the trust, it's about 17 years.
With
We
no
could go up.
earnings, with no earnings.
With no earnings.
Just to go back to that question, is what we paid out of the general fund last year to cover the retiree benefits that we were obligated to pay $460,000 we paid out of the general fund last year.
Correct. It was budgeted in the general fund for each department and was,
And that number will go down as retirees die. And it will go up as new employees who have the benefit retire. But at some point, it won't continue to go up because we'll run into those employees that no longer have, or they're paying a larger portion of it themselves.
yeah, it's a closed system. So there's no new members that are going to get long-term retiree healthcare. All they're going to get is the PEMCA benefit, which is substantially less.
Well, we hire a police officer who qualifies.
No, no.
any new employee we hire, even whatever classic member, whatever, they do not partake in the retiree health. They're closed from it.
It's the classic pension system, but not the classic healthcare system.
Correct.
Two totally different systems, correct?
Correct.
That's why it's closed system.
So that's why I'm saying it's gonna go down as people die, and it's not gonna go up as fast as people, well, it might go up faster as
If the
certain
health,
people retire that have the benefit, but then
The
as you
healthcare-
move into retirement of people that don't have the benefit, it's not gonna go up.
Right.
So that, I guess one of the questions that is out there is how many active employees do we have now that are,
13.
But isn't there, in the liability that's calculated actuarially, isn't the current liability of those people is in there?
correct.
So
Correct,
it's not like when they retire, the number's going to jump up.
correct. Correct. They retire from Atherton, that they receive it. The things that it'll change is the healthcare costs could go up. The mortality rate could change, the demographic on that. So those could drive the cost to increase.
They're in,
the OPEB.
those things have been projected.
Correct. But I mean, in a couple years, right now the mortality has dipped about 2 years since the pandemic. It's gone down, but maybe 5 years, 6 years from now, just like what they did with pension, the mortality rate could get the improvement of the mortality rate. People live longer, or the healthcare costs. We have not seen that yet, other than, with the inflation, healthcare costs have increased previous years, but with the inflation, could it increase more after the pandemic? correct.
Also, as we look at those changes, we can
We
choose to
we can
pay
adjust.
some or all of it out of the general fund.
Right. And so while it may calculate those things in there in terms of the assets in there now, I think if in 10 years, we've depleted the fund by half, and then there's a sudden change in mortality and cost increases go up, we have less of an asset to adjust for that change.
Mhm. But for now, it seems like, the fund has grown because you've been doing this. It's like mission accomplished. Now we're at the point where we can start paying out of the fund.
And we'll continue to do a refresh every 2 years.
Correct. We'll do refresh every 2 years. We can
But
reassess.
Tom's right. We shouldn't be second guessing the people we're paying to do the calculations. We need to call for action here.
Well, just a discussion. I mean, Devika and Kate, do you have any questions or what's your sentiment on this discussion as far as using the PARS trust to pay the retiree health expense that is currently a operational expense in the town's general fund?
And there will need to be a recommendation from the finance committee to the
Correct,
council.
correct. Once we discuss that, we'll make the recommendation and then we'll present it to the city council.
Have we used the PARS account to pay it in the past, or would this be the first?
This will be the first time we've used a PARS account, kind of a quasi to pay. We contribute to the PARS account so that we can contribute to our retiree health, to our retirees. So it's a tax implication. So we've always operationally paid the retiree health every month, but we use the PARS trust to allocate that to reimburse the retiree health, the retirees for their retiree health medical. But to use the PARS trust exclusively to pay that, we have not.
Do we, I guess I'm just trying to think if we want to wait till Anne's back. I'm just not sure, like,
Oh,
or
I'm
do we
glad you
need to make
mentioned.
the connect today or the recommendation today?
No, thank you for bringing that up. Anne had made a recommendation. She wanted me to read this to the committee regarding the OPEB liability. So she wanted me to read this the following. Dear Audit and Finance Committee members, I reviewed the memo prepared by Councilmember Bob Polito regarding the town's OPEB liability. I heartily endorse the memo's recommendations to the council, and I urge the committee to approve the memo and send it to the council with our endorsement. Thank you, and Yvonne Walker, Chair of the Atherton Audit and Finance Committee. Thank you for the reminder, Devika. I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no, of course. I think so. Given that, then I'm comfortable with it. I just didn't know any historical background, if there were any concerns that I'm just not aware of, but Anne would know, and then of course. Bob
So
as
do you
well.
actually need a vote of the committee
A vote of the committee of a recommendation.
and just voted yes? So if
All right.
everybody else
All
votes
those-
yes, we're done.
Okay, so
I second.
Devika seconds. Kate?
Yes.
Okay, and Member Hill. Correct. Yes, the recommendation is to the council to start 100% using the PARS trust to pay the retiree health medical benefits. Okay. And that's the voting members. So that's the 3 votes that we need. And we'll proceed to make a recommendation to the council for 100% payment of the retiree health benefits out of the PARS trust. And then we will review this periodically as we do the refreshes on our OPEB liabilities. Great. That's that. I agree, because what we're doing is we're freeing up basically 460,000 in general fund expense that reviewing it every year, we don't want to run into the roadblock or run into the further down the road that, oh, now we have to add back 460,000 that we had used that to augment somewhere else. But so I think, yeah, we'll review that every year. or every other year as we go forward, with the
And
committee.
have we talked about, or have we earmarked what we're gonna use that 464 out of the general funds, or is that just?
No,
rainy day funds,
great
or we-
question. It'll just,
Council prerogative.
yeah, it's a flow through. The council will during our budget sessions, review that and see. It'll be just explained that there'll be a flow through of an additional 460,000 of reduced
If-
expense.
If the council approves this, will it be for this whole fiscal year?
No, they could adjust at mid-year if they wanted to make that adjustment in February, but then they would incorporate it as a policy moving forward in the 23-24 budget.
Oh, okay.
The budget for the current fiscal year has the 400 and some odd thousand coming out.
Correct.
So we would need a budget amendment at mid-year, so
Correct.
I think that makes sense. There's no reason not to start it now.
We will do that. No, I think there's one more item. Waiting for,
Are there any other questions or?
no. And then there's just that last item, number 4. Devika, you're doing a great job. I appreciate
I
it.
guess, no worries. Jan 10th, I believe, right? Was it?
Yes.
Next committee
Um,
meeting. Is everyone
the-
okay with that, or?
Yeah, and that's just the next item, number 4. It's just to discuss and establish our meeting schedule for the next calendar year, basically. In the staff report, it's January 10th, March 14th, May 9th, and July 11th. We'll set as our regular scheduled meetings for the finance committee. And in there, there's 2 potential joint budget study sessions on Wednesday, April 5th and May 3rd of 2023. These 6 meetings will be set, and then any other meeting that is not part of these set calendar meetings will be announced as a special finance committee meeting if we so do need one at that time. So that the recommendation is just to set January 10th, March 14th, May 9th, and July 11th as regular meetings, and also the study sessions for budget on Wednesday, April 5th and May 3rd.
Just a note, any meeting after February 28th needs to be in person.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. So I just want to, that's the motion to make these the set meetings for the calendar 23.
Second, so just to
There's
confirm,
another
so we're
but
going
yeah.
off the Zoom structure then, right? after that?
Emergencies.
After February, I believe the state announced, I think it's
February 28th.
Okay, the end of-
Disaster
is when it ends.
proclamation ends.
Got it.
And governor changed the law to require that commission, committee, council boards all be in person with limited exceptions for those that need to participate remotely. You're limited to 2 per year, and they have to be disclosed publicly as to why, and they need to be emergent situations.
But that definition of emergency.
Yeah, it has a few caveats to it, but it can't just be, you don't want to come in today. Right.
There's a minimum number.
Yeah, 2.
So this committee's only meeting 6 times a year.
Right, it'd be half or a quarter.
Yeah, there'll still be hybrid meetings for the public.
Correct. And I'll bring this back again in January, just to clarify, let you know what the emergents are. And also just to kind of rehash that after February, it'll be in person.
We have
meetings.
one vacancy.
No, it's full, it's a full committee. We have Chair Walker, Vice Chair Sleeth, and then our 3 members that are here today. Correct.
So the exceptions are member must have a just cause or faces emergency circumstances. Just cause can be caregiving needs, contagious illness, unaccommodated disability, or official travel. An emergency is physical or family medical emergency, and you cannot have more than 2 per year.
And we have 6 meetings a year. Cool. So I have a motion by Devika, second by Kate for the meetings that are set forth in the staff report, and I just need a roll
I
call.
agree. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Yeah, so we have our 3 voting committee members today voted in favor. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for
Thank you.
today. I don't know if there's any other final questions or comments anybody has.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Davika. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.